Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We made it halfway through the week. So stoked to be speaking with you about today about visitors visas, letter B in the alphabet soup that is immigration law. So what you need to know about visitors visas. This is our story. We are attorneys, paralegals, and just a group of people that want to help you realize your American dreams. We expand opportunity, overcome borders, and connect the world by practicing compassionate, cutting edge, and rigorous immigration law in the service of the betterment of humanity. I will tell you, it has been a very interesting 5, almost 6 years practicing immigration law under an anti-immigrant administration, now under an administration that is continuing to deal with the repercussions of the global pandemic that we all know and do not love. This is me, technical difficulty, Anita Koumriqian. I'm one of the partners here. Absolutely love what I do. I'm stoked to be here. I am an immigrant myself, which makes me love what I do even more. I'm passionate about it. I have compassion to all of my clients who have to deal with anything that is immigration related. I went to Santa Clara Law School and I am a proud Bruin. I have experience practicing family law, which helps me be an expert in family-based immigration. But at the firm, I am the one that handles all things case related, all production related immigration needs. I told you I'm an immigrant. Here I am down here. That's baby Anita. That's my green card. It was pink. I thought it was because I was a little girl that I got a pink green card. But no, everybody got a pink card back then. Now it is more of a multicolored card. It's not really a green card. I don't know if it was ever really a green card. I don't know where they got the name from, but I'm going to stop bantering and introduce Cori Farooqi, my incredible associate attorney.
Yes. So my name is Cori. I also went to Santa Clara Law School and I did my undergrad at UC Santa Cruz where I focused on psychology. And prior to joining Alcorn, I did work at a small nonprofit assisting survivors of trauma with their immigration matters. That was a very challenging and rewarding job, but definitely challenging. And at Alcorn, I am the Family Immigration Associate Attorney, and I work on all of our family matters. I work closely with Anita and the rest of the team. And I was born in the US, but I am a proud child of an immigrant. I have a lot of immigrants in my family from different parts of the world. So I've always been very connected to immigration and interested in immigration law in general.
And as you can kind of see, so these are all of the lovely faces of Alcorn immigration law. Not every single one of these, not every single face that supports our team is on here just yet, but one day we'll have everybody on this slide. But all of these people, all of our team members, they all are somehow related to immigration themselves, either an immigrant, married to an immigrant, the child of an immigrant. Regardless of what it is, it really supports our ability to have compassion, which is one of our core main values. And you have to be compassionate. You have to be patient. You have to be loving in order to practice immigration law because it's stressful and you have to understand kind of where our clients are coming from. So without all of these people on the screen, we would not be able to do what we do. We would not be able to help all of the people that we help on a daily basis. So incredibly grateful for all of these amazing people. This is our network. We support people in this network. We are supported by individuals or companies and groups in these networks as well. I always tell people we have a pretty vast network. If you have any questions, if you have any specific needs that is outside of the realm of immigration law, reach out to us. Let us know who we can help you connect with within our network as well, so that you can be helped, you can be well situated in all aspects of your life, not just immigration law. So what we're all here for today, what you need to know about immigration, everything, right? Don't we all want to know everything about immigration? I do too. This is the typical pathway of an immigrant. There's 2 real pathways, and this is with the focus of ultimately immigrating to the United States, being in the US, becoming a US citizen. You can either enter the US temporarily as a visa holder and then potentially apply to get your green card and then eventually apply to become a citizen, or you can straight away apply to get your green card outside of the United States, attend a consular interview outside of the US, come into the US as a green card holder with all of the immediate rights as a green card holder, and then eventually apply for US citizenship. So 2 different kind of train tracks or pathways for immigration. But let me tell you, we're not talking about any of that today because we're going to be focusing on visitors visas instead. So if you have any questions about specific visa types or a green card or US citizenship, stay tuned because we do have other webinars that focus on or specifically discuss like H-1B visas, green card options, citizenship. So attend those as well, or plug into our podcast or reach out to us and we can support you with any of those questions as well. Cori, remember when I said it's been a difficult couple of years? Tell us what immigration has been like during COVID and what we've been dealing with and what our clients have been dealing with.
Yeah, so before we go into the B2 visa stuff, we wanted to give you guys some info about immigration during COVID. So it has been a little different. We've seen delays with biometrics and interviews, both at the local offices in the US and abroad at all of the consulate and embassies all over the world. Some new things for local USCIS interviews, though, is that they are allowing attorneys to appear telephonically at interviews. So that is a new thing that is being allowed, is continuing to be allowed. So we've actually been participating in those and they've gone very smoothly. There have been several proclamations put into place during the Trump administration and continuing on in the Biden administration. But one proclamation, which was functioning as a visa ban, has been lifted. However, the COVID travel restrictions are still in place by presidential proclamation. We have a little update on that in a couple of slides, but they are at this time still currently in place. Expedited appointments are being offered at mainly consulates and embassies abroad, but they are very, very difficult to come by. And each consulate and embassy seems to have a little bit different requirements for those, but they are right now being utilized. And then this is a bit of an update, but as of October 1st, which is in a couple of days on Friday, the COVID vaccination will be required for all green card applicants. So this is a new thing that happened because of COVID. So basically what this means is that the surgeon signing the medical exam will not be able to sign it unless you've been vaccinated against COVID. Go ahead.
Yeah, to add on to that, this is in addition to all of the other vaccinations that are already required for the green card based medical exam.
Exactly. And as it says here, there are waivers available for it, but it is a little bit more complicated. There are specific requirements for that. So if anyone has questions about that, feel free to reach out to us about those. All right. And then as far as entry requirements during COVID, so you do need to get tested no more than 3 days before you travel by air in the US, show a negative result to the airline before you board, or show documentation of recovery. So if you do have a positive COVID test, or you can use a doctor letter as well. I'd always recommend, though, checking your airline before you board any plane. Make sure that you have the most up-to-date information as things do rapidly change during the pandemic. And then just for some recent news for you guys. So going back to those travel bans by proclamation, so Biden has announced that they do plan to rescind the COVID-19 travel bans and instead require proof of vaccination from all international travelers starting in November. We don't have more details about this yet. Right now, it is still in the works. It hasn't happened yet, so we don't have specifics on what exactly it will require. This is all the information that's been provided. In addition to that, it has been announced that Afghan parolees are going to be required to report vaccination status. And then USCIS has been and continues to extend flexibility in responding to any requests for evidence or additional information for any pending applications. So that's just something else to keep in mind if you are receiving one of these.
Right. So this one means specifically that last one is If you get a request for evidence that says that the deadline is October the 1st, you actually have an additional 60 days from October the 31st in order to respond to that request for evidence. We still encourage people to respond to the requests for evidence during that initial request period, but that flexibility does help in some cases. All right, so visitors visas, what we're all here for today. So in terms of visitors visas, again, this is letter B in the alphabet of the alphabet soup that is immigration law. So a B visa, usually they're referred to as B1 or B2 visas for business or for pleasure. We'll go into a little bit more of that in a second. And so with this typically and usually what happens is you have to first obtain a visa at the consulate. Your very first visa request, if you don't currently already have a visa, a visitor's visa stamp in your passport, you have to go to the consulate abroad, attend a visa interview, prove to them that you have strong ties to your home country, and then from there you get a visa stamp in your passport. After that, you will then enter the United States as a visitor. And we'll go into this a little bit more. Every single time you enter, you still have to prove your strong ties to your home country before the Customs and Border Patrol will allow you to enter the US. So that being said, visitors visas, who is it for? It's for a citizen of any foreign country who wants to enter the United States on a temporary basis for a maximum period of 6 months, is welcome to apply for a B1, B2 visa at the consulate in their home country. So again, there's a couple of different flavors, a couple of different categories of visitors visas. A B1 visa is entering the United States for business reasons. Again, business, you're a business visitor. The B2 is for pleasure, for simply you want to just come to the United States. I want to go to Disney World in Florida. I want to go to Legoland in San Diego. Whatever it is that you have this want or desire to enter the United States just for pleasure, you would fall under the B2 visa category. And a B1, B2 visa category, which is usually the visa stamp on your passport, allows you to enter the United States for both purposes. So maybe I want to enter the US, I have a conference to go to, a work-related conference, but at the same time, when I'm done going to that conference, I'm going to go to the Golden Gate Bridge. So for that reason, there's the B1, B2 visas. So what is the purpose of a B1 visa? What can you do when you're entering the United States for business purposes? Well, let me tell you, you can't work. It does not give you the permission to work in the United States, even though we're saying, well, I'm entering the United States for business purposes. You can enter the United States to go to a meeting, to consult with your business associates, to consult with clients, to, like it says on the screen, attend a conference, attend a meeting, attend a convention. You can go in for contract negotiations. Basically, you can come into the US to conduct business, but you cannot work. You can't earn money in order to, when you're in the United States as a business tourist, because again, at the end of the day, it's a tourist visa. It is not giving you permission to enter the United States and earn money while you are in the US as a tourist. This one is a little bit of a gray area. There's often a lot of pushback with B1, B2 visas, especially again, when you're entering the United States with Customs and Border Patrol. If you are attending a conference, if you are attending, if you're going to meet with clients for whatever reason, to do any contract negotiations, whatever it is, you have to prove to them that you have to show proof of what this conference is so that they understand and they know the reason for which you are entering and how it is okay under a B1 visa, and it wouldn't require any other type of employment-based visa category. And a B2 visa is really more just, it's for a holiday. You want to take a holiday to the US, you want to come to an amusement park, you want to visit family, there's a wedding that you want to attend to, maybe whatever it is, other like tourist reasons you want to enter the United States, a B2 visa is the way to go. In here as well, we talk about medical treatment. If you have to enter the United States for medical purposes, you have to come in for there's a specialist in the United States that your home country does not have that kind of medical specialists. You were selected to become a part of a clinical trial. You are permitted to get chemotherapy here in the United States for whatever medical treatment it is. In addition to proving that you're entering the United States for that medical purpose and proving that your home country does not have that same medical treatment, you also have to prove that everything is going to be paid for either out of your own pocket or like, for example, the clinical trial is free of charge. The chemotherapy is going to be done free of charge for you. So the medical treatment category is very specific and requires a lot of proof, especially financial proof, to establish that while you're in the United States, because you are not allowed to work as a tourist while you're in the US under a B1, B2 visa, you still have these resources available to you. You have a savings, you have somebody who can help you financially live in the US, plus pay those medical expenses during the duration of your time in the US. So that one, if you fall under this category, reach out to us specifically. With this, we can help you renew your visa, which Cori will be talking about visa extensions momentarily, but we can help you renew your visa until that medical treatment does come to an end. And then what is not permitted while you're in the United States as a tourist? You really can't do anything other than just really hang out in the US and maybe like go to those medical treatments, go to those conferences, whatever. You can't study in the US. You cannot work in the United States as a tourist. Anything that involves remuneration, getting paid, if it's an audience that's coming into the US or that you're coming into the US like to, I don't know, if you're a musician and you're going to be putting on a show, regardless of what it is, you just cannot get paid. You cannot apply for permanent residence while you're in the United States as a tourist. This one I can't discuss today ethically. All I can do is tell you that if you're in the United States as a tourist, you cannot apply for permanent residence. If you have any additional questions about that, you will have to reach out to us individually so we can talk one-on-one on that. But basically, takeaway is if you're a tourist, you can't apply for your green card. And then before I take it or give the mic over to Cori, an additional thing that's not mentioned on the slides, in addition to the B1, B2 visa, some countries qualify for what's called ESTA. ESTA is an exemption essentially given to specific countries that qualify, have some sort, it's like an agreement with the United States. All you have to do is apply to get an ESTA clearance basically, and then from there you're permitted to enter the United States for 90 days at a time. So with that, it depends on whether or not your country is an ESTA permitted country. And from there, you basically it's a quick application online. You have to explain to them what it is that you're coming into the US for. And then from there, you're permitted to enter the United States for 90 days at a time. If you are from an ESTA country and a 90-day visit is not sufficient for you, you also are able to apply for a B1, B2 visa. Again, the B1, B2 visas have to be done in your home country. And with that, you get a visa stamp placed into your passport that on average is usually stamped for a total of 10 years. Once it's in your passport for 10 years, during that 10-year duration, you're permitted to go enter the United States as a tourist, in theory, however many times you want, in 6-month increments. But again, in order to gain access into the United States, not only do you have to prove during the time of the consular appointment that you have strong ties to your home country, every single time you enter the United States and go through Customs and Border Patrol, you have to prove to the Customs and Border Patrol officer who's inspecting you upon entry that my trip is only temporary. Here's proof of my round trip flight itinerary. I'm coming into the US on October the 1st, and I'm gonna go back before my 6 months is up. I'm gonna go back in February, for example. I think that's less than 6 months. Excuse me if my math is wrong. But you get the point there. When you are in the United States, again, if you see, oh man, I said that I was going to stay for only 3 months, but something happened and I have to stay longer, you can go from there. So Cori, why don't you walk us through what it's like to apply for a visitor's visa?
Yeah, sure. So Anita already explained some parts of applying for a visitor visa, but we'll go through it together here completely. So you do have to complete a non-immigrant visa application. This is something that Alcorn can support you with. Once that application is submitted, you have to schedule an interview appointment at an embassy or consulate abroad in your home country. We just have a little facts here about these interviews. So individuals 13 years of age or younger and 80 years of age or older are generally not required to attend the interviews. Wait times for interview appointments vary by location, season, and visa category. However, with COVID right now, we have seen that there is a very big delay in these interviews being scheduled. So a lot of consulates abroad have paused their B1, B2 appointments at this time, but it is still possible to get one. But you have to look into your specific home country, see what is being offered at the consulates and embassy in your home country, and see if you are able to get one. But we have been seeing some significant delays there.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult. I think we have one client who was actually successfully able to attend the visa interview. And I asked her, I was like, how the heck did you get that visa appointment? She's like, Anita, I went onto the website every single day. Yes. And I just tried every single day. And I think it took her over a year. Her visa appointments were canceled numerous times. But eventually she was successfully able to attend the interview, and all was good there. So if you are really interested in applying for the B1, B2 visas at the consulate right now, you just have to be persistent.
Yes, persistent. And if, let's say, like, as you were mentioning the medical treatment, let's say that you do have an emergency medical treatment that you need to receive in the US, that also ties in those expedite appointments. So maybe you do qualify for requesting some kind of expedite appointment. Again, you'd have to look at the consulate and see what are the requirements for getting one of those and seeing if you would qualify with your B1, B2. But just to give an example of different avenues you can go with that. Also, though, with applying, you do need to gather the required documents. So Anita did mention some of these already, but the purpose of your trip needs to be provided, your intent to depart the US, so proof of your return flight, and then proof of ties to your home country. So this could be a job that you have to return to, property that you own, bank accounts, so various different things that would tie you to your home country. And then also you need to be able to demonstrate that your ability to pay all costs for your trip. So either you yourself are going to be paying for your trip, or maybe you have someone who's inviting you to the US and they're paying for your trip, but all those costs do need to be covered. And then lastly, you do need to pay fees to the Department of State to process your application. All right, so attending the interview. So a consular officer is going to conduct the interview to determine if you qualify to receive a visitor visa. During the process, they'll take a digital fingerprint scan. If approved, your passport is typically taken and they'll add the visa stamp in your passport and confirm where you need to go to pick up your passport, or if it will be mailed to you, confirming that it will be mailed to the correct address. All right, and once you have that visa stamp in your passport, now it's time to enter the US. So it's important to note that a visa does not guarantee your entry into the US. You still need to go through CBP officials at the port of entry, typically at an airport, but if you were to cross through a land border, then at the port of entry at the border. CBP does have authority to permit or deny your ultimate entrance into the US. So they can, even though you've already attended your consular interview and made your case for the B1, B2, they can still take a look at your documents, ask you questions about the nature of your travel and things like that. If your entry is ultimately authorized, then CBP will enter your entry in an online database. This is what's happening more often than not now. They still stamp your passport sometimes, but it's not weird if they don't. That does happen where they don't stamp the passport and they don't give you any kind of paper I-9 So that is something that's a little bit newer, but it will be reflected on their online database. If CBP does authorize your entry and allow you in, then your stay could be authorized for up to 6 months. So you can only stay in the US on the B1, B2 for up to 6 months. CBP also has the authority to authorize your stay for a shorter time. So let's say you present your documentation, maybe they're having some questions about the nature of your entrance and they decide to give you only like a month stay in the US. So they do have the ability to do that as well. And you will have to leave by that time. You cannot stay past that time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's why it's really important that if the Customs and Border Patrol officer does not stamp your passport, it's important to always check after you enter the United States, your electronic I-94. If you just Google CBP I-94, all you have to do is plug in your passport information and you will be able to pull up your I-94 and on there so that you can verify, was I given the full 6 months? If you were not given the full 6 months, then you have to make sure that you depart the United States prior to that. I would say, and I mean, don't bake on this, but if the Customs and Border Patrol is going to give you anything less than 6 months, they likely will tell you at the border, but you never know. So it's always critical, always important to check your I-94 online after you enter, because you don't want to overstay a visitor's visa because it can negatively impact your future entries into the United States. So going back to now what I was talking about a little bit earlier, once you are successfully in the United States already, I'm here in the US with my B1, B2 visa. I came right when COVID hit, or mid-COVID, and I really didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do, or something came up and I have to stay in the US. I want to stay in the United States a little bit longer. What can I do? Well, you can extend your stay here in the US. So what you can do is you will have to file an application directly with USCIS. So no longer with the consulate, no longer with Customs and Border Patrol, this time a third and different entity under the Department of Homeland Security, USCIS. You will have to file Form I-539. This is for an extension of your non-immigrant stay. And with that, you basically have to prove, again, for the third time potentially, how you have stronger ties to your home country and you don't have strong ties to the United States. What have you been doing in the US during the last 6 months? Why do you want to extend your stay? What is the absolute need for it? And what are you going to do over the course of the next 6 months? With that, USCIS will make that decision for you. The funny thing is that sometimes it takes longer for that decision to come through, but it is important to file the I-539, that USCIS extension application, prior to your expiration of the status, obviously, because if you're not in valid status, you have to depart the United States immediately. So with that said, we recommend filing for the extension of status at the very least 45 days before your authorized stay expires. And if approved, you can remain in the United States for an additional 6-month period of time. If you need an additional 6 months after that, again, for extenuating circumstances. If you can prove I can't leave, medical reasons is really the only reason why you would extend your stay more than one time. So that would mean that if you're extending a second time, that would mean that you already have been in the United States for 1 year. So it gets harder and harder to prove your ties outside of the United States the longer that you stay in the US. When there's medical reasons behind it and you have strong proof, then it is feasible, it is possible. We have great success in extending visa statuses over visitors visas over and over again for medical purposes. But the applications are tough. It requires a lot of proof. It requires a lot of patience and diligence on our clients' end to make sure that they can give us enough information so that we can put together a strong application with USCIS. So primarily we have to prove, again, ties to your home country are stronger than ties to the United States, what you're going to be doing. And then the key portion of it is that financial aspect. How are you going to live and stay in the United States for an additional 6 months if you cannot work here? How are you going to pay for your room and board? How are you going to pay for all of this while you're here in the US? So critical to prove that as well. And then the consequences, just to briefly touch on this, of overstaying. When you're in the United States, going back to that I-94 entry record, you have to make sure to either extend your status or successfully depart the United States prior to your status expires. After your I-94 has expired, you will automatically you will run out of status. There's no grace period, there's no forgiveness. You start accruing a day of unlawful presence in the United States. The more unlawful presence you accrue over time, the worse the consequence will get for you. So this here is the concept or what is behind the 3-year bar and the 10-year bar against re-entry in the future in the United States. So if you accrue 180 days up to 365 days of unlawful presence and then depart the United States, you will accrue a 3-year bar of entry in the United States, meaning you cannot set foot back into the United States for 3 years because of your prior overstay. And it's going to be difficult for you to be able to prove and get a B1, B2 visa again in the future, or other visa types, because you already committed an immigration no-no. Now, if you accrue more than 365 days of unlawful presence and then depart the United States, then you accrue a 10-year bar of entry into the United States, meaning you cannot enter for 10 years. And that, again, is hard to get another visa type in the future because of the fact that you committed an immigration no-no. We told you to leave, you didn't leave. Why should we let you come in again? Because you're going to do it again. We don't trust you, basically, is what the government would say. So long story short, don't overstay your visa. If you find yourself in this category, contact an immigration attorney immediately so that they can kind of help you figure out what you can do from there.
Anita, I just want to add about the extensions, that during COVID, we were able to also get a few extensions just based off of the special circumstance of the pandemic and the risk of travel and things like that. I think as the pandemic hopefully improves, I know it kind of goes up and down, but as the world starts to open and things like that, we're not too sure how strong those arguments will continue to be. But if you do have like a specific situation and you are here on a visitor visa and the pandemic is preventing you from travel, there is still maybe a possibility of extending your stay based on the special situation of the pandemic alone.
Right. So, I mean, almost going on 2 years now that we've been dealing with this. As life gets closer to normal, as countries are opening up again, the likelihood of somebody being able to travel again is greater. But basically, we just supported a lot of people with visitors visa extensions simply because they didn't feel safe to travel again. They were not vaccinated yet, or they fell under the a demographic that if they did get sick, it made it worse for them with pre-existing conditions. So we've had success. Again, if you fall under any of these circumstances or you just have questions that are burning within you, reach out to us and we'll give you your guidance and our 2 cents there. All right. Cori, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with immigration policy these days? There's some changes.
Yes.
Yeah?
So there's quite a bit of immigration proposals. They're all still proposals. Nothing has been passed just yet. The first one here is the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Just some highlights from this. If you can click the next slide, Anita.
Great.
Okay. So just some highlights from this. So there's some work visa highlights. So it would provide more working visas, clear green card backlogs, reduce lengthy priority date wait times, eliminate per country caps, make H4 EADs permanent, prevent some children from aging out. So just some of the things that I just wanted to highlight here. Other things are, in addition to that, are keeping families together. It would allow beneficiaries with approved I-130 visa petitions to enter the US while waiting for their priority dates to become current. So that would be a big one because some of these family members are waiting years, if not decades, honestly, for their I-130 petitions to become current. It would eliminate the 3 and 10-year bars that Anita just discussed. Make it easier for spouses and children to join their families already in the country, speed up processing by increasing the number of green cards and recapturing unused green cards, in addition to increasing the number of green cards in the diversity lottery. And this last one actually has already started being put into place, but stop using the word alien and change it to non-citizen. So it hasn't changed on the forms necessarily, but people are changing the way that they talk about non-citizens in general. All right, and then in addition, it has a path to citizenship. So there's a 2-tier legalization program. So it automatically makes farm workers, TPS holders, undocumented immigrants who came to the US as children eligible for green cards. After 3 years, they could apply to become US citizens. It would include temporary deportation relief, but it would require background and national security checks, as well as filing taxes and paying application fees, which is pretty similar to many applications with USCIS as well. Just some DACA update here as well. So July 16th, 2021, a Texas federal judge ruled against the DACA program. So right now what this means is USCIS will continue to accept initial DACA requests and requests for employment authorization, but they cannot grant any new DACA requests. So these DACA requests are, the initial DACA requests have been in indefinite pause right now. So we don't know when they're going to pick up processing these again. Right now, they're just holding on to them. And then all those who are granted DACA before July 16th decision will continue to have DACA, and they can continue to renew their DACA. So it's really just a pause on those first-time applicants for DACA.
Yeah, and this is something that's been ongoing, the fight for or against, however you want to look at it, for DACA applications. It's been very, very much on again, off again for the last 5, almost 6 years. So hang in there, DACA recipients, or those who qualify for DACA and just haven't been able to apply just yet.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been back and forth for quite a while. There's also 2 versions of something called the DREAM Act, which our Congress is reviewing. So there's the DREAM Act of 2021, which is from the Senate, and then there's the DREAM Act that is incorporated into a larger bill known as the Dream and Promise Act, which was presented by the House of Representatives. So both bills would provide a path to citizenship for Dreamers. The House bill would also provide a path to citizenship to beneficiaries of 2 other humanitarian programs, so temporary protected status and deferred enforced departure. It would include 3 steps to citizenship, so conditional permanent residence status, permanent residence, and then naturalization. So that would be the ultimate pathway to citizenship there. And then I think we have another slide, which is a couple of other differences about the 2 bills, if you would like to compare them side by side. So just the Senate one would require 8 years of conditional permanent residence, whereas the House is 10 years. They have a little differences in disqualifying criminal convictions, and then some exceptions as well. So one exception would be crime related to lack of immigration status. So this makes me think of the 3 or 10-year bars or other kind of immigration related crimes there. So just some differences to note.
This is every immigration attorney's dream, right? So this is going to give those who've been in the United States for so long the ability to get legal status here. We are keeping our fingers crossed that this will go from just being a bill to becoming law. And as soon as we hear anything, we will immediately update you. So fingers crossed there. But that is all that we have for you today. Thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. We hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A portion of today's screen, and we can start going through whatever questions it is that you have. As I discussed a little bit earlier on in today's presentation, we have a lot of resources, a lot of just things that we can provide you guidance on, some resources on. Follow us on our social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can subscribe to our podcast as well. Our podcast has some really good resources. Hopefully you think that it is a fun listen, but it's just something that you all can listen into. And if you have any specific questions, always feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is below. All right, so let's go ahead and start going through your questions. What if there is a justified reason for overstay? For example, getting stuck in the US during COVID, could the ban be avoided in that case? That is such a good question. Very unfortunately not. If you are going to have to stay in the United States for an extended period of time outside of what was already authorized for you, you have to make sure to timely file an application for extension. Otherwise, it's really difficult to get through any of these bans. They're pretty strict on that. Anything you want to add there, Cori?
No, there has not been any kind of exception announced for people whose overstay was completely due to COVID. So you do need to get your extension filed in that situation.
Yes. All right. If already in the US and applied for a change from other non-immigrant status to B1, B2, but due to COVID, the expected response time is very long, can you stay in the US while waiting for the reply? This is a very good question. All of the questions are very good questions. But this one, what you should do in this situation is you will have to file basically a continued flow of B1, B2 visas in order to make sure that you are maintaining your status. So let's say my first visa, I filed for that change of status from H4 to B1, B2. And I filed that change of status on July the 1st. On, let's say January the 1st, let's make the math easy. My authorized stay that I'm going to be requesting is a full 6 months. So on July the 1st, or let's call it June the 30th, my permission to remain in the US will end. If I don't get a decision in early June, what I have to do is file, and I don't plan on leaving the US just yet, I will have to file a second B1 or B2 extension request so that I can stay an additional 6 months, saying I'm still waiting for the adjudication. I cannot leave just yet either way. Please allow me to extend for an additional 6 months. So from there, that's basically, it could be considered a bridge application or a continued application as well. But maximum is 6 months, and you will have to prove, again, basically all of the things that we've talked about already today, the ties, the finances, and all of that fun stuff. If, let's say, that first extension request is approved, the second extension request is okay, and you just have to wait for that second extension request as well. If that first extension request is denied, however, that puts you into a little bit of hot water, because That means that on January the 1st, when my status expired initially, from there, I've been accruing an additional day of unlawful presence every single day. So if you feel inclined to file a second extension to stay in the United States while one is pending, I highly recommend talking to an immigration attorney to make sure that they can go through the consequences of the application and support you with the application. Can I work remotely for my usual job while traveling on a B1, B2 visa? This is a gray area. A gray area of immigration law where technically I'm not working in the US, I'm not earning any money in the United States. Why would the US care if I'm working in the US? If I'm on a B1, B2 visa, if I'm getting paid in Armenia, for example? Well, they care because that just means that it's going to be an additional excuse for you potentially to stay in the United States longer. So technically it's okay, but technically it's not okay either, because you're still earning money while you are in the United States. While it's for an employer or an employment outside of the US, it's murky. So I don't recommend it. When in an immigration gray zone, I recommend just going super conservative and not doing it, basically. Anything to add there, Cori?
No, I would recommend the same thing. And then, if the B1, B2 visa, it's granted for 10 years, right? And every time you're coming in, you have to prove to CBP that you are, that you're coming to the US for those reasons. So if, like, let's say you want to keep coming to the US over that 10-year period, you don't want to run risk of getting your visa denied or revoked or things like that, because you are doing maybe more murky things when you're traveling here. So
stay out of murky water.
Yeah.
All right, next question. As far as I know, none of the US embassies in India is allowing schedule or interview for a visitor's visa. Has your firm helped anyone from India with a visitor's visa? Pre-pandemic, absolutely we have. During the pandemic, like we mentioned, it's really, really difficult to get visitors visa appointments because they just want everybody to stay home. Unless you have an emergent reason or a medical reason or any other kind of emergency to enter the US, you're likely not going to be successful in scheduling an appointment. The embassies in India specifically are really, really strict right now. And from my understanding, they're basically closed. So
they're actually moving a little bit more than others right now, at least in our experience right now. Like some of our immigrant visas are moving more. We're seeing more movement in the consulates and embassies in India, but not necessarily on B2, B1 visas. So I think they are opening a little more than others, but not to full capacity by any means.
Yeah, so hang in there. Continue to try to schedule an appointment. Check the website as often as you can. And that's all that we can recommend right now.
Yeah, and I think another important factor with the embassies and consulates abroad is just that it's a U.S. embassy or consulate, but they are abiding by that country's lockdown. So it just depends on on how COVID's going in that specific country, on whether or not they're going to open, and then the specific area too. So some consulates are able to operate within a country at greater capacities than maybe another location, just because of how COVID is looking.
Yep, very, very good point. I think we've answered all of our questions. We can wait and hang out a couple of more minutes.
There was one question in the chat about proof of return flight. Does that need to be provided at the time of interview?
You want to take that one, Cori?
So we do usually advise that you do have that at the time of interview, and continue to have it. I think we've recommended just a refundable flight ticket if you can pull that off, in case you don't actually need the flight anymore.
Yep. Wonderful. If anybody has any additional questions, we'll let those trickle in. But if not, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. Again, please consider us all a resource. If there's anything that we can do to help you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, anybody in your network, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, thank you all. Have a wonderful day.